Hi, hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Today I want to talk about what do I see the near-term price prospect of Bitcoin and the overall crypto market, right? And also the long-term prospect, and then why do I say that? So first, let's look at the weekly charts, right? Now, I know something very, very interesting happened last week. Last week was a big week for the world of crypto because it was really, right, the Facebook Libra project, their Libra coin project, facing the Senate, facing the government, right, on hearing. And that could have been a bearish tone on the overall market that gives it, that led to Bitcoin hitting a low of 9,000, right, in the middle of last week, about 17th of July, right? Now, but where do I see it going forward is what I want to talk about. So my view is that, of course, I'm not a financial advisor, and just based on the charts that I see, I think it still have higher probability in my view that it will still trying to hold around the $10,000 level per Bitcoin, right? But of course, in the worst case, I think it may go down to the lowest. I think it will go down. If it does, right, is the 6,000 level mark, right? I will tell you why, but this is basically what I think. But I think it wants to hold at the 10,000 level. I will tell you why, both from the charts and also the recent news that came up. Now, if you look at the daily charts, right, so long-term trend, it seems is still a downtrend, right? But if you look at the nearer daily charts here, you see at about the 10,000 level mark here, there are a lot of rejection, right? And also trying to see when it goes up, it try to bounce back down, and when it come down, it generally tend to go up. Yeah, this is basically how I see it coming up. And that day when it immediately hit the 9,000 level, it actually bounced back quite fast. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is this is very hard if you're trying to catch the bottom. If you still, for people who hasn't got, if you think you have not enough of Bitcoin, I think it is really, really hard, right? Even just based on the last week's performance, right? That is very hard to really catch the best price of Bitcoin unless you're glued to the screen 24 hours a day, right? But how could that be? That means you have no life, basically, right? I mean, no one realistically can do that, yeah? So you can see here, right? There's a lot of you can see that trend, right? And it seems to be like they seem to be like trying to form a wedge, right? And it still stay around this level, yeah. And even if you look at the nearer time frame, yeah, I've drawn this, right? It seems is a downtrend is trying to form, but every time I think it's trying to go down below the 9,000, right, it immediately shoot up. You see these 4-hour charts, right? You see this strong rejection of the price drop, right, at the 9,000 level, and then immediately shoot back up, right? It tests and then it shoot back up, closed close to the 9,600 level, and then it continued to be choppy, and then a strong increase, right, above 10,000 level, but it couldn't really sustain, but then it's still trying to test, right, the 10,000 level. Even today I've been watching it, right? You see this is the 1-hour charts. Yeah, you see today it is still trying to test the 10,000 level. So what I think is still trying to hold above this 10,000 level mark is what I'm saying. Similarly here, the 15 minutes charts, you can see this kind of trend. So that's what basically I see. Why do I say the 6,000 level mark? I say in the worst case, if it's trying to turn, right? If let's say the bears is really so strong that it will turn, in the worst case, I think the worst case it will drop is at the 6,400 level. But honestly, my intuition is really that, right? That it will trying to still hold around the 10,000 level. Sorry, 10,000 level. So what I mean is it could be like sometimes 9,008, 9,007, right? Sometimes above 10, slightly over 200. 500 plus minus that 10,000 level is really what I think is trying to do. Now, this is what I see from the charts. Now, how about the news front? So basically, I see, right, all the players from individual level to corporate to government, right, are generally very, very supportive of the long-term trend of the positive narrative of Bitcoin, of crypto market. Why do I say that? Let's start off first with the individual level. So Grayscale, which is they have their Bitcoin trust, right, and their target market is the rich people, accredited investors and institutions, right? They actually so they manage about $3 billion of asset under management in crypto, and they basically their latest report actually says that, right, they just in US alone, they're basically seeing $68 trillion of generational wealth will change hands in the next 25 years just in the US alone. And remember, the new people, means the younger generation, the millennials, the Generation X, are basically much more welcoming, right? Much more susceptible, or they're much more receptive to the idea of crypto, of how having their assets stored in digital form that do not need to see and touch, right? Unlike the older generation who are much more comfortable with something like a gold, which they can see and touch, right, in its very shiny, heavy, right, form. Now, the thing is basically the newer generation thinks that, right, why they align with Bitcoin, with crypto, because they see it as a vision, right, as something that's very technological advanced, as something that is entrepreneurial, driven by the bottom up, right, rather than top down approach. Whereas the older people, the older generation has basically see gold as something which is much more secure, something that they can hold, right, something that they really need that security, right. But given the advent of mobile phone, of the digital world, right, it's something that's digital is very, very comfortable with the newer generation. Next also is very interesting. So that is a very macro individual level, but at a very individual level as well, right, there is a proof, and this is from off the chain Anthony Pompliano subscribers, because I'm a subscriber to his newsletter. He actually, July 19, he actually posted this to subscribers saying that he actually received an email from a private banking client and a corporate banking client of RBC Bank. It's a top bank in the US. And I mean, that letter talk about many things. You can actually read it, right, in your free time. You can actually freeze this screen and actually you can read this letter. But the gist is basically this private banking client, who's also a someone who must be a follower of Anthony Pompliano, is a very huge customer, loyal fan base of RBC Bank. They have been banking with them through generations. Their parents have been banking with them, and them having a business now, and also so both their business and their private wealth is with RBC Bank, right? And even the business account have 50 million kind of balance with their, so it's a huge customer. And the fact that they are so angry now with RBC that they want to move the business elsewhere is that they have been disappointed for a long time, but this latest incident is the last straw that caused them to move the business elsewhere. What is that last straw incident to cause them to do such a drastic move? Is that because they are questioning this client, this private banking client and corporate banking client, right, that they're questioning about their crypto holdings, yeah, basically is that. And then they themselves considered that, in their words, the fact that we are considered suspicious customers because of our crypto holdings is nothing short of insulting. So basically, so this trigger is because, right, the bank must have, I think they must have stopped some of the transactions because of they know that they have some, inflows, outflows, channeling to buying crypto. And then they are basically questioning the clients, and I think they must have stopped some of those transactions. And that's why the clients got very, very upset and very, very agitated. And that's why they actually wrote to their relationship manager and addressed also to the CEO of the bank, right, to basically terminate all their relationship. But not just saying it, but they also want to vent out their anger, right? And basically they said, among other things, they say it's not surprised that, right, something like crypto comes along because the banking industry itself is in a very, that they basically have taken it for granted that, that they will get all the business, that they will get all the money, right? And then they didn't really care about the customer service. They didn't really care about what the customers really need. And so it is not surprised that, people are channeling their money into crypto. But instead of battling, making their services, making their products and services better to compete with crypto effectively, but instead they are fighting it to stop their clients from engaging in crypto. So that is what really upset the clients, yeah. And this is a clear example, right, that definitely this letter is one of those is going to be one of the outlier of the people actually voicing out their displeasure in public, yeah. But they will, I mean, this client will definitely not be the first, and they are not going to be the last for sure, right? So that itself, you can see that again, people are moving. The movement is already started, that people are moving to crypto, whether you or I or the bankers like it or not, it is happening, yeah. So it's just whether how will the banks react, how will the industry react. Next, right, on the corporate front as well, Bakkt, which is the company owned by New York Stock Exchange, right? They are, I mean, it has been almost 1 year now, since September last year, that they have been talking about they want to launch a product called Bitcoin Futures. What it is actually, what is so unique about them is it is a physical delivery. That means they really need the underlying real Bitcoin to deliver their product. Because before this is always the financial forms of futures, which doesn't need the actual Bitcoin to support the contract. But now what they want to do is actually a physically delivered Bitcoin futures contract. Then they have been talking it, and because of a lot of regulations and also because of government closure, they could not get the approval to launch it to market. They were supposed to launch in November last year, and then December, and then January, and then they couldn't give a date. But finally now, right, after almost 1 year waiting, today, 22nd yesterday, that they're actually doing a user acceptance testing. That means they're actually doing it with potential clients or real users, right, of their platform. So this is a huge step, because that means they are very close to launching, right? And that also means that they are, not giving up, not quitting. Things are still happening, just that they have been quiet for a while, right? And that's why, So this, I think, this news, people are just talking about this news. So I think it will take some time before people fully digest the significance of this news, right? And then I think prices will move up. That's why I think prices will be supported at the 10,000 level mark. This is one of the key reasons. And why do I say that? Because what is so unique about this is that this platform will really be a key enabler for institutions with their huge money to come into the crypto market, yeah. And when they come in, generally they will only look into the top coins, meaning Bitcoin will be the first. After all, Bakkt is only have one product, which is Bitcoin futures for now. But if the next one, most likely it will be Ethereum or XRP, right? It will be the top few for sure, yeah. So this company, given that it has a strong backing, among others, is the New York Stock Exchange and also Microsoft and Starbucks. And in Asia, they're also backed by Li Ka-shing, the richest people in Asia, right? They are a private equity firm. So all these have a strong backing. And what the key enabler, again, as I said, is to enable the institutions from coming in, because institutions are actually afraid to come in. They are dipping their toes, but they are really they're still waiting for some major names to provide them with the platform to actually come in, because they are dealing, they have many stakeholders to answer to. So definitely they will feel more confident and comfortable if they're dealing with a big company that have experience dealing with institutions before, right? Because you're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars here, yeah. So that's the other thing. So and of course on the government front as well, right, a lot of positive narrative, yeah. So last week was the big week, as I've said, because the Libra coin is being questioned by the Senate, right? And among others, we have one very very forward-looking and knowledgeable senator, congressman, US rep Patrick McHenry, right? He actually said there's no capacity to kill Bitcoin, and he actually said it in a CNBC interview. So the fact that we have a senator at the top, which is so in tune with the Bitcoin supporters, right, who are with the Bitcoin people, is a very encouraging and positive sign that, right, there are people already at the top who are not fully ignorant, right? They are people who are in the know, who understand the nuances, right, of Bitcoin, of the crypto market, and they actually do think that there is they do see crypto Bitcoin as separated from the Libra coin, planned by Facebook, right? So that's actually very, very positive narrative, right? And that's again overall long-term positive for crypto. And of course, again at the government front as well, right? Apart from the US being such a major nation, we have a very surprising smaller countries like Bulgaria, like Iran, right? Bulgaria is basically saying that their Bitcoin holdings in terms of value is now surpassing their gold reserves value. So Bitcoin holdings have 200,000 units, which at current value is about $2 billion, and their gold reserves, they have about 40 ton, which is worth about $1.8 billion. So again, this is very, very interesting that small countries like this, right, at current prices, which is not even crazily high, right, even below its peak of 20,000, already has so much more holdings, more than their gold reserves. So very, very interesting. And you can really start to see, right, that Bitcoin is at a level point, or is at a position where they are almost on par with gold, right? So very, very interesting. And of course, the last one is again very, very interesting. This just came out yesterday as well, that the Iran government, right, again, because of their US sanctions, they have very high incentive to adopt crypto. And the latest is definitely a first for any country. They have given a clear green light to crypto mining, right? They have actually legally recognize crypto mining as a legit industry in Iran. So that just, again, because the other thing is because their electricity is very cheap because of their oil reserves, right? They very cheap electricity subsidized by the government. So again, if they recognize and legitimize this crypto mining, that means again a lot of the operations will really flow to these countries. Again, they will attract a lot of foreign investments, yeah, for sure. So again, this news also just being released to the public, and I think people are still trying to digest all these news. So that's why again I see all these positive news combined, right? All from the charts, from the individuals, from the corporates, backed to the government, right? US, and then smaller countries like this, is very, very positive again for the overall crypto. So narrative doesn't change, but I think again every day, every week, we are basically seeing more and more enforcement of affirmations, right, of the long-term narrative of crypto. So again, I am very, very hopeful, right? I'm very, very positive on the long term, right? We are talking about maybe 4 or 5 years, or even 3 to 5 years later, where we expect, right, or rather me, right, not financial advice, where my personal opinion is that it will reach a 6-figure or even 7-figure mark per Bitcoin. So again, if you are bearing with that long-term goal in mind, then this current price, or even if it dropped to 6,000, shouldn't scare you, right? If anything, you should look at those as opportunity to buy in more if you have not enough, right? And definitely do not sell. So again, my opinion, not financial advice. But again, bottom line is that I think it will hold up around this $10,000 mark. Yeah. So that's all I have for today. Hope you all the best and stay strong, right? Yeah. Digest all these news, right? Do your own research and pass this on. Leave a like, right? But more important, I think pass this on to the people you think will benefit from, because they couldn't see the big picture. Perhaps, it will be, they might be afraid. But pass this on to the people you think will need this, yeah? Again, hope you're having a great week ahead. Speak to you next week. Thank you so much for your time.